Familiar game that one was. Golden Knights get behind. They actually scored first, which was nice. Took a little while. The first period was kind of, I guess, what you're hoping for. When you think about kind of how the first periods have gone, I guess the Toronto one went real well, but starting to look like that's a game we might just want to kind of throw away and count as a aberration because hasn't really looked like that all that often. So to kind of get the stalemate for the first 10 minutes or whatever it was, not a lot going on, not a lot of danger, kind of consistently making the right plays to not give up anything dangerous. And then Montreal does what Montreal typically does and gives the opportunity up with a 2-on-1 with they kind of got lost at the blue line and bad decision making. And it leads to the break. Pavel, hell of a shot. That was fantastic. So now the Golden Knights have the lead. But from that moment, basically until the end of the second period, Montreal's all over the Golden Knights. And that's where, that's kind of where I want to start today, more so than the comeback. Because as much as the comebacks will continue to be a huge part of the story, and the comebacks are without question why the Golden Knights are in the position that they're in now, back in first place. They were there anyway by points percentage, but now officially back in first place in the Pacific. It's because they've found ways to come back in these games. And fortunately, you don't actually have to win in the NHL for it to turn into something positive. That's a huge reason why this team is where they are, because they have consistently found ways to get back into these games, to send games that they could potentially be losing in regulation into overtime. But it's the middle section that's the part that's so flustering or flabbergasting, or I don't know, pull AI up and ask for more words for flabbergasting. That's probably not even a word anyway, but that's what I am, right? That some sort of word similar to flabbergasted, in the fact that it's been time and time and time again that this team just cannot find a way to get going consistently against decent opposition. Now, when they play the bad teams, we have seen them find ways to get out there and get ahead and run away sometimes. Nashville, not a particularly good team the way that it's been against San Jose, but there's been others, we've seen some other ones over the course of this season. But when it's a decent team, and then I don't like Montreal is they have their faults, they have their strengths. There's some good and some bad to them. When it's a good to decent team, this team has struggled to find ways to push the game forward, to keep the game in their own style, the way that they want to be playing. And part of that, I will readily admit, is that there are some injuries that are getting in the way. You look at what the fourth line has been, at least recently, and it hasn't been good enough. It has been in a few games here and there, but for the most part, they would be better off with Brett Howden in the lineup, probably with Colton Sissons in the lineup. And even that one, I'm not sure. I guess Brett Howden's probably the one, and then Braden McNabb definitely would bump Hutton probably out of the lineup, and they'd be in a different spot. But the overall sense of what they're doing is they're not generating enough. They're not finding enough danger consistently enough early in these games, and not whether it's first period, whatever, first 40 minutes, when the game is tied or they are ahead, they've had a hard time being the better team for long stretches of time. Today's was a perfect example. It's effectively a stalemate. They're probably doing a little better. If I have to score that as a UFC fight, the first 10 minutes are 10-9 Vegas. I don't feel great about it, but that's 10 must scoring for anyone who knows UFC or boxing. That's where I'm at. Then the mistake is made. Golden Knights hop on it, take advantage. That's what a good team does. They are good enough to take advantage of those opportunities consistently. It's why they've been in the playoff picture the entire season. But they get the chance. Now you're in a good spot. All right, you've got them where you want them. You've gotten through the first 10 minutes. You've taken the Bell Center crowd out of it like you wanted to do. You've slowed the game down compared to what Cassidy constantly says when they ask him about the Bell Center, is it seems to speed things up. It just speeds the game up, right? So you've gotten it slowed down. You've kind of gotten through that muck and found a way to make it so that that doesn't overwhelm you. But from that moment, literally the second the puck hit the net, from that moment, the Golden Knights were the second best team until the third period began. And I guess there's a parade of penalties at the end of the second and into the beginning of the third that kind of skews it a little bit. We will talk about the power play a little bit because I do want to get into that. But for the most part, when the game's at 5-on-5, it wasn't particularly good. And that's where Montreal starts taking advantage. And it's weird because this is a game that ends up with 4 goals in regulation, all of them at 5-on-5, and 2 of them are the least dangerous of the chances, which are the tips. Like, it's phenomenal tips, both by Dorofeev and by Deneau. But like, there were way more dangerous chances. Pavel had the one on the back door. There was the hurdle one off the post. There were a couple of other really good looks that the Golden Knights had. And then on the other side, there were a bunch that Montreal had that either Schmid made a great save, he was very good today, or they were off net, or there was a good stick check, or whatever. But for the most part, if you take then the next 10-minute segments of the next 3 10-minute segments, especially at 5-on-5, the Golden Knights lost all 3 of them. And now you get to the third, you get to a point where, and arguably like the first 10 minutes, 14, it got good around the 10-minute mark, 12-minute mark. Power play off the top, then another one right after it. Got to take those out. Again, we will get to that. But once it was back at 5-on-5, it was pretty even to a little bit better. Golden Knights are skating a little bit better, but the other team is holding their lead. Then when it gets to the full-on, let's defend, let's find a way to defend, let's just get the puck in deep and make it hard on them to tie this. And at worst, it ends up going to overtime because I think most teams are starting to realize it's not the end of the world to go to overtime against the Golden Knights, especially when you're not a conference team. It's not bad because they lose them more often than not. You are a favorite the second it gets to overtime, and you're taking a guaranteed point out of it. So when there's 8 minutes left in the game, it's basically don't give them one. Make them earn it, and then we'll get back to going the way it needs to go if we have to kill off the last 3 minutes, which is what happened. And in the last 3 minutes, Golden Knights take a penalty. Now, is there possibly a penalty on Marner right before it? Yeah, we didn't get a good replay on it. I don't know what's going on where we're looking at the replay that we saw of the trip that Rasmus Anderson had. Like, it's as clear a trip as it can be. So I don't know what we're doing there. We didn't have a great replay of the one behind. So I think there is an argument of, well, you didn't call that one and now you are calling this one. Okay, fine. But to argue that that one wasn't a trip, it clearly was. Granted, Golden Knights kill that off. They kill off the 30 seconds in the end of regulation. They kill off the 2.5 unbelievable save again by Schmid. It's the overall sense of it. Why is it only looking like an elite team or even a good team to great team when they're down and late? When teams are trying to make sure that they just at worst get it to overtime. That's when they're looking good. Boston, that's how it looked. Boston is a 4-goal lead. They just want to come in and not blow this. They almost did. Good on the Golden Knights for consistently coming back in those situations outside of last game. The game before this last game, so 2 games ago now. Penultimate, everyone likes that word. Like that, the portion of the game where you need to find a way to make it so that you're not chasing, the Golden Knights have not been good enough in. And this is where I'm having a hard time with all the goalie discussion or all the advanced analytic discussion, or they're good in this stat, or they don't allow shots, or they do all of these things. It all comes back to the same thing. They're good to arguably great to arguably awesome when behind and the other team stops trying to score. That's when the Golden Knights are elite, basically. But other than that, they're average at best. And average might even not be right when you consider the fact that once the games tie back up, or once we end up in situations where we're in overtime or the other team we're tied late in the second period or whatever, they're not even all that good. Now 25 wins, 27 losses. We're back to this again. Good thing they got the trade in for the 1 second that they had more wins than losses in the last 2 months. That's nice because that's what my prerequisite. They followed the prerequisite to a T. Unbelievable when you really look back at it. Nonetheless, it's like That's what needs to be fixed. Where is the forecheck early in these games? It wasn't there until the other team stops attacking. And now your defenseman can throw more numbers forward because you know they're not going for controlled exits. And as much as we want to talk about motivation to start games, or we want to talk about coming back off of a big loss or a big win or whatever, all of the intangible stuff, I think I'm done with it. I think I'm completely done with the intangible stuff because I just don't think it's right. I don't think the intangible effort level, fight, hunger, motivation, preparation, all these words that aren't hockey skills, that aren't ability to shoot the puck into the corner, aren't saucer passes across the ice, aren't making the right play along the wall or winning a stick battle or winning a race. None of that is what's actually going wrong. The stuff that's going wrong is all the second part of it, the actual hockey stuff. When this team is tied, when this team is in a position where the game is even or close to even, they're struggling to get their game in order, to play their style long enough to take multi-goal leads or even leads at all. And if they have the lead, to then hold it. It just hasn't been consistent enough. And so now, to me, I think the focus has to shift off of all of the intangibles and have to shift directly onto why does it look like that? What is changing between the portion of the game where you're playing great at the end, where when you're chasing and you see what it looks like when they back off a little and they start trying to make sure that things don't go against them? How does it look there? What are you doing right there? When, like, what in that portion of the game is making you as good as you are, to then finding a way to implement that when the other team's not playing that way, when the other team is playing to on the attack, is trying to continue to push you, is forechecking. That's where the Golden Knights forecheck falls apart. Their exits have not been good enough. They have not been good enough in front of the goal as the whole of the season. They really haven't been a great gap team. And that's a huge problem I'm noticing in Anderson's game so far. The gaps are terrible, not good. Now, I don't know, maybe that can improve as we go along in getting more opportunities and getting more reps in the system and understanding what's going to come at him. Now, maybe he's backing off a little bit more. Okay, that can get better. But so far, the gaps for him and the gaps for most of the team haven't been good. And that's a place where McNabb makes a huge difference. He's awesome at that. Like, he's fantastic. But until we get there, there's no reason why Shea Theodore, Caden Korzak, these guys can't get gaps, can't gap up well. And like, okay, yeah, sure. Rasmus hasn't practiced. Doesn't matter. Gap up better. Like, you don't need practice to have good gaps when they're coming out at you. It's stick length away at the blue line. It hasn't been there. Forecheck is the other piece. It's not there. It just isn't there. And Cassidy's shifting lines around, and Smith goes up, and Marner back in the center, and Barbashev over here with Hurdle and Kolazar, and this fourth line, and you're in, you're out. What, like, all of this, none of it has made a much difference. The only thing that made a difference in the past, 5 games now, 6 maybe? It's 5 or 6, has been emotional boost. That's been it. They had the emotional boost, and even in that game, have the lead, get up by 2 or 3, and that one kind of got dangerous as we got to it. Today's switch, Smith goes up top, Barbashev comes down into the third, Marner goes back into the center. I'll give you my thoughts on that after I tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. When losing in overtime matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. I don't think they want to lose in overtime. I don't know what overtime looks like in the courtroom. I don't think I want to know. I don't think anyone wants to know. So when winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Smith goes up. I thought he was pretty good. Couple of opportunities. I think his speed helps. I think he's more of a go-to-the-goal type of player, which sounds weird compared to Barbashev, but I think he's better in transition. The forecheck isn't quite as good, but Barbashev's forecheck has been limited. He's now at 15 games in a row without a goal. He's now at 15 games with 5 points. Think back to the last 14 games. Mark Stone was on a point streak on all but one of them. Jack Eichel was on a 10-game point streak, and Barbashev has 5 points in those 15 games. Like, I completely understand the decision to make this move. Is Riley Smith the right one to go up there? Probably not long term, but I do think he deserves to be rewarded for playing much better. He's been much more consistent. They're just not going in for him at the moment. Maybe that's age catching up and he's a half step behind, and that's what's causing that. Or maybe they will eventually go. I didn't mind it. I thought it was good. I thought Eichel and Stone with Smith, pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. I didn't mind it. Second line, I'm going back and forth with Marner as the center. There's moments I really like it. We saw a couple of those today where he gets in and he gets underneath the goal and has opportunities and has a little bit more free roams through the center of the ice. And everybody's kind of more in the right place, which is weird to say because he's played so long on the wing. And maybe that's just, you have to adjust to that. And Matthews was a little bit better at adjusting to that. And whoever else happened to play on his wing, of the other wing, the Golden Knights aren't quite there yet. But I think with him in the center, we are seeing guys off to the side in shooting positions up near the goal, active defensemen when he comes back up. And we're seeing a lot of good things. The problem is, I think it's kind of limiting some of the things they're doing in transition, and you don't see a lot of speed coming out of the zone when Marner's on the ice playing center. And we were seeing quite a bit more of that because he can make some of these real nice plays along the wall. He has really tricky feet where he can move his body in a way that teams aren't expecting, and that tends to pop guys. If you have a center swirling through and taking that puck out, as opposed to he's the center and the wingers are trying to get out to the boards, it seems like that would generate a little bit more speed and a little bit more transition. And I think that's key in what they're doing, especially with their offensive scoring talent. Still, I don't think being elite, despite the fact that they have elite playmakers, I don't think the scoring talent is elite. The getting the puck physically in the net, Pavel's starting to look like he's an elite one in that, but like the 38%, 39% or whatever it is that Stone's been shooting, that's not going to continue. Like, you don't get a ton out of Hertl at 5-on-5 scoring wise. He's very good on the power play in the middle there, but not a ton there. Barbashev has shown it's not really going to be consistent. It has come from time to time. It's not going to be consistent. So that's where, like, I saw one person asking on there, I can't find the comment now, like, do they trade for a shooter? Yeah, I think that would be the plan. The problem is the 2027 first round or 2029 first round pick is the most valuable piece of asset they have. That's hard to make deals with. Maybe there's a 26 second, or I don't know, but like, it's going to be hard to find that player. It's going to be hard to find somebody at the level, like beyond even an Alex Holtz at this deadline, at this moment, for those prices. It's going to be difficult. So yeah, I think they are going to look for that. And if that can be found, great. But that's going to be hard to find. And I think it's going to be difficult for them to actually figure that one out. And like, yeah, what about Trevor Connolly? Well, I still think it's difficult for Trevor Connolly to get traded at this moment based on the fact that he can't stay healthy. He's been injured 3 different times this calendar year. Or, well, I guess we changed into the next calendar year. In the 2025 calendar year, and now he's back at practice and about to get back into games. I don't think teams are lining up to take Trevor Connolly. I just don't. So I think it's difficult that being the last pick. I don't think he's worth a first round pick at the moment as he was when he was selected and beyond that. Like, I just don't. I don't think if I'm another team, I'm lining up saying that's the guy when he hasn't shown to be healthy. Off-ice stuff starting to fade away. That's good. That was an issue I had at the beginning. That's starting to fade away. Haven't heard anything of that sort. That's good. We got a lot of that. That's very nice. But the injury stuff's a problem. Happened at early in the season. It happened out in whatever World Junior Summer Showcase. Then it happens at the actual World Juniors. It's like, that's a concern. So that's limited. So that's a bit of a problem. Power play today. Like, I saw a lot of, why don't they shoot? They had 7 shots on 3 power plays. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. They had a number of really good looks. Dobish was good. He was very good. And sometimes they don't go. This is a bad penalty kill. They took advantage of it for the most part, in my opinion, spent most of all three of them in the offensive zone. I think the fact that it got cut in half and you start the second period, like I think that makes that middle one a little bit more difficult. Yeah, you could probably be a little crisper, a little cleaner on the first and the third one. Sure. Would have been nice. But like if the power play looks like that, we have to remember a 30% power play is elite, which means that's 1 out of 3. Yeah, they should have got 1 out of 3 today. But if that means you got 2 out of 3 a couple games ago, which they have recently, I think it was 10 of the last 30 coming into the game. If you're operating in that, sometimes the variance is going to go against you. Sometimes because 30% is very good, you're going to fail. Think about it. Just do any sort of 30% random chance 3 times, you're going to fail all 3 times quite a bit. Like, I don't know what the actual probability of that is. Someone can plug that in for me. It's probably somewhere up around half of the time. So if you get 3 power play chances, you're not going to score on all of them. You're not going to score on 2 of them. You're probably not going to, maybe not even score on 1 of them. That's just the way it goes, right? So that's where, to me, that's what shouldn't be in the crosshairs today. And beyond any of it, for this team to go where they want to go, the special teams is going to help you get to a point closer. The special teams is a big reason why they're in the position that they're in. If the special teams was just average or even just good, I mean, they're both pretty darn good. Penalty kill was excellent today. If the special teams is just okay, slightly above average, this team's not in the playoffs at the moment. Like, it's been that good. And that's where the 5-on-5, again, that's the difference. That's what has to be improved. And that's, again, where I'm a little bit, I don't know how the fit is going to be with now having 3 offensive-minded defensemen, none of which play on the power play. Yeah, fail all 3 times. Oh, 34% of the time. All right. That seems lower than I would have thought. I would have added them all up. Yeah, I don't know. Either way, yeah, okay, so 34, 1 out of 3 games, you're not going to get one. Today happened to be it. And I don't think it was bad. I really don't. A couple of good chances. All right. Doesn't happen. That's where 5-on-5's got to bail you out. And today it did to a degree. They were good enough in front of their own goal. They got a good enough goaltender performance. They got enough offense to find a way to get it to 2-2. But I still have this sinking feeling in me that I can't seem to crack. And hopefully, like, it changes on the other side of the Olympics when maybe they're a little bit healthier. The challenge to me right now is, like, when they play a good team, they are at best a coin flip 5-on-5, probably behind. They may be a little ahead at power play and special teams and penalty kill, but at 5-on-5, it's a coin flip at best. A good team, they're behind it. Even some of the not so good teams, it's kind of a coin flip at 5-on-5. And I've done the coin flip thing before. I'm just trying to say a team that is excellent, a team that is able to get the job done consistently throughout April, May, and June to win 16 playoff games in the hardest atmosphere you can win. It cannot be a coin flip night in and night out. Now, I understand that schedule is congested. There's 3 and 4s, there's travel, there's all these different things going on. That's perfectly fine. But we're 52 games in, and it really hasn't been that much better than a coin flip more often than not. It just hasn't. And especially when we drill it into 5-on-5. And that's where the advanced numbers are concerning me, because they're saying it's all going to turn around. It's all going to be just fine. And I just don't buy it. Watching the games, understanding why they look like that, today is a perfect example. At 5-on-5, let's see if we have the numbers. At 5, well, even then, this one doesn't even show it. But 5-on-5, in the second period, they were up 1.9 to 1.1. Third period, 0.51 to 0.63. They actually were down, which is surprising to me. Again, like, sometimes those numbers don't match up. Normally, with the way that they're playing, with the state of a lot of these games, they're chasing more often than not. They remain in the bottom third in the NHL in time spent leading. And today, and this road trip, despite the fact that they led for the entire game in Montreal or in Toronto, this road trip did not help yet again. Boston game didn't lead for a second, little bit today, but for the most part, that's been the case. So to me, a lot of this doesn't really line up. And then, yeah, so all right, so they haven't seen a healthy team. Yeah, that's perfectly fair. However, they're one of the few teams that has taken the amount of money that they're missing and replaced it. They've put a team that is damn near close to salary cap level out there over and over and over again. And right now, Carlson's injury. Someone asked about Carlson earlier. I do not have anything new on Carlson. There's that one. I have not heard anything different from what it was before. I still believe we know he's out through the Olympic break. I don't believe he's going to be ready to play by the other side of the Olympic break. I don't believe he's going to play by the trade deadline. I would be surprised if he's not ruled out for the season at this point, but we will see. But as far as like the healthy lineup, McNabb not being in there is important. That does matter. I do think that would help, but I don't know that it's going to make that much of a difference because Lauzon's actually been okay, not great, but okay in that role. He then moves down. I think he's going to go back to what he had been before, basically what Hutton or Korzak has been, and you may get a slight upgrade up top where McNabb is playing with Theodore, but even that, I'm not convinced of that even still, especially now we're coming off an injury. It may not look great there. He's going to have a lot of time to heal and get ready. Plus, like Chris said, they're not going to be healthy. It's just unrealistic. They're probably not going to be healthy. The rest of it, Howden would help, but not a lot. Sissons, I don't even know that it helps. I guess it helps get Marner back over to the wing. And even that, I'm not convinced. Like, I really don't. McNabb has been, where's this one? McNabb has been ruled out through the Olympics. So we are not expecting McNabb in the next, whatever it is, 5 games. It's just the overall sense through where we're at 52 games into the season is they're not finding a way to advance the game when it's even. When we're close, when we're in a position where the game can go either way, it's not advancing. Once they get behind, it's advancing in a big way. They're finding a way to get it back. And to me, like when you start plugging in the other pieces, it's not pieces that seem like they're going to change that. You're not suddenly going to get elite forechecking out of the line that has like Hurdle and Pavel. It just hasn't really been there. Barbashev's forechecking hasn't really been there. The fourth line's forechecking can be a little better, but they're the ones doing it now. Lazinski's been pretty good forechecking. Reinhardt's been pretty good forechecking. Kolazar continues to be pretty good forechecking. So that's where I just look at this road trip and I sit here and I say, fell behind by 4 twice, Boston and Ottawa. And then this game had the lead, fall back behind. You're chasing most of the time on this road trip. And like I said, I think the Toronto game is looking a bit like an anomaly, more like they were more up for that game. And I go back to the other most important game of the season, Colorado. I think Vegas was more up for that game than the other team was. When both teams are at the same level, it's not going well. It's not going well. And that's where my concern continues to lie. And now a trade has been made. A first round pick and a second round pick and a roster player have been sent away to bring in another player that I don't think is going to make a difference, which is crazy. I don't think it's going to change the issue that has been there already. Maybe he helps, like Cassidy said, and I wrote this morning, a little bit more in transition. I think we can see that. He certainly is going to shoot more. I don't know the impact of that. Like, it's like a 4% chance that he scores every time he shoots. I guess you get a couple, but we already have one. Like, reasonably to what should be expected of Rasmus Andersson in the rest of this regular season is 2 more goals, maybe only 1. That's where we're at. So that's why I look at all of this and I ask the question of like, Why can't they find a way to come in waves at a team? Why can't they lean on the team physically earlier? Why can't you cause a team like this to not be able to get out of their own zone as consistently as they did today? This is not a great defensive team. And yet, the Golden Knights could not push the game on them until they sat back. And until we have that answer, can they find a way to make it look like when they're down, when they're not down? I'm going to have a hard time truly buying in. I just am. And we can look at all of the individual pieces and how it builds up. And I think the main reason for it is it's repetitive. A lot of the players are repetitive. And the ones that are standing out are the non repetitive players. Mark Stone, not repetitive compared to like a lot of the other better players on the team. Eichel, I think, is kind of repetitive in a way to Marner. It sounds weird, but I think he is. Like the three defensemen, I think, are repetitive, and you're not getting a huge difference. So that's where I'm at on all of that. I'm concerned in the fact that it's not improving. Like the identity of the team is float around is probably not right. The first 40 minutes is going to go away. If we're winning, great. Probably have a pretty good chance to win. But more often than not, it's probably going to be a deficit. And they're pretty good at getting it back. But then, if all these games were 5-on-5 into overtime, it just doesn't continue on usually. So that's what my concern remains. We will continue looking forward as we go. The remaining 5 games, like there's a couple winnable ones in there for sure. There's a Seattle game at home. Would like to find a way to get that one. I'm interested in that Anaheim game. We'll see what looks like in the Dallas game. There's 2 back-to-backs in there, which isn't great. Vancouver's a tire fire, so hopefully they're able to take 2 points off of them. I think like finding a couple wins, maybe 3 in these next 5 games is going to be crucial. So you don't want to go into this break having this road trip along with what may not look great if they can't get 3 wins, if it's only 2 and 3 in these last 3, and we go in on, what would that be? 6 losses on the last 9 games. Like that's going to be troublesome. The standings are going to tighten up even more. It's going to be troublesome. We'll see. I don't think the health's going to be that much different the rest of the season. Like I don't think we can rely on that much better of health. I just don't. We have been saying it all year. Hill's out. Well, that matters. And then he comes back and everyone wants to tell me that he's not. And I promised myself I wouldn't get into that, but then I did anyway. So instead, we're just going to end this. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm for sponsoring all Periscopes this season. There should be a podcast coming up probably next week. We'll have to see what the schedule looks like around that, but we should get one of those early next week. I will announce right now we are planning on the Germany game, so the USA-Germany game. It's on a Sunday afternoon, or maybe it's at exactly noon. We're planning on watching that one at Giordano's. I am working on finding a way to find somewhere in case the U.S. does get to the gold medal game. I was going to say Golden Knights. If the U.S. gets to a gold medal game, I'm going to try to find somewhere because I think that game's going to be at 6 a.m. I want to find somewhere where we can have breakfast, everybody, and have some fun watching that one. That will be enjoyable. We are not getting together to watch any Canadian games because I hope Canada loses every single game by 10. That's it. Good night. See ya.